So I share over there one PDF, okay? And you should on your webcam, unmute yourself, and then read that textbook. Okay, read that page over there. So now, on the auspicious occasion of the Abdul Kalam's birthday, we have started our reading activity over there. Okay. So who will read this? Just raise your hand. First of all, you should on your webcam. Okay.
Good morning to one and all. My name is Bhumi. Now I am going to read this introduction. Introduction. My journey recounts certain unique experience of my life from my childhood until now, when I am over 80 years old. In all these years and through all these experience, the most important lesson I have learned is one must keep dreaming at various phases of life and then work hard to realize those dreams. If we do so, then success is imminent. To the many people I meet, I always say, dreams are not those that we see in our sleep. They should be the ones that never let us sleep. The idea of this book came to me one day while I was walking in my garden. Like every other time, I stood under the grand Arjuna tree, which is nearly 100 years old in age, and I looked up into its branches to see if any something in that moment. As I gazed up at this tree in the city of Delhi reminded me intensely of my father. He too was an early riser whose first few hours of the day would be spent with nature. Examining his coconut trees, walking the roads of the town we lived in. I recalled with a smile and a feeling of happiness my childhood. The people who inhabited it, the hands I held while I traversed it. I then also begin to think of the journey that my life has been, the unusual path I have traveled, the things I have seen, the events I have been a part of. And I begin to wonder if these memories and experience should stay with me or if I must share them with numerous readers and family members whose numbers have grown as large as abundant roots of an enormous banyan tree. Its great-great-grandchildren. I have written a few books till date, and in some of them I have described my childhood experience. When I wrote my first book about my life, I had wondered how it would interest anyone. Unlike in my previous book, my journey focuses more on the smaller, lesser known happening in my life. The incidents around my mother and father are written because even now, at the age of 82, I still cherish the values and ethics that they lovingly inculcated in me, the qualities they instilled in me, and which I learned from observing them and by understanding their reactions to the adversities they.
Teacher from FACE have helped me
Yes,
live.
yes.
Okay, FACE have helped me live better, and through these values, my parents still live strongly within me. When my father talked about the importance of understanding people's mind or face difficult stockily, I remember his word years later when I was battling various odds myself. In my mother's tender touch and sensitive upbringing of her children, I found a world of love and kindness. I also felt compelled to record in detail the contributions of my sister Zohra and her generosity, the
Yes.
Faced have helped me live better, and through these values, my parents still live strongly with me. When my father talked about the importance of understanding people's mind or face difficulties socially, I remember his word years later when I was battling various odds myself. In my mother tender, touch and sensitive upbringing of our children, I found a world of love and kindness. I also felt compelled to record in detail the contributions of my sister Zora and her generosity, the openness of the outlook of my first mentor Ahmad Jaluddin that was first encouraged me to think of studying further. Incidents such as my failure to qualify for Indian Air Force and other advertised I have been witness to have all brought home to me the necessity of setbacks in one life. Yes, they seem insurmountable at the time, but there is really no difficulty one cannot overcome if there is a determination in the heart. Recently, I was talking to my friend Professor Arun Tiwari when he suddenly asked me unusual question, Kalam sir, can you sum up your life so far in one sentence? I made me think for a while. Eventually, I said, Arun, my life can be summed in these phrases, and the words love poured to the child. Struggle, more struggle, bitter tears, then the sweet tears, and finally a life as beautiful and fulfilling as seeing the birth of the full moon. I hope this story will help all my readers understand their dreams and compel them to work on those dreams and that keep them awake. It is a daughter.
Yes, very good, Ria. Just mute yourself and off your webcam. Very good.
My father's morning.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Forest. Start, ma'am.
Yes, first read the chapter name.
My father's morning walk. For as far back as I can remember, my father Jalaluddin's day began at 4 a.m. He would be up before anyone else in the household. After saying his prayers in the breaking light of the day, he would go on a long walk to visit his coconut grove. We lived in Rameshwaram, a small temple town on island in Tamil Nadu. This began on the east coast of India. Dawn would break early, and our day's schedule followed the rhythm of the rising and setting of the sun and the sea waves. The sound of the sea was a constant presence in our lives. Storms and cyclones blew by with regularity during the tumultuous monsoon months. We lived in our ancestral home, a fairly large house made of limestone and brick, built some time in the 19th century. It was never luxurious, but was filled with love. My father had a boat building business. Additionally, we also owned a small coconut grove some 4 miles away from our house.
Okay,
That was where my father would be headed for in the early morning hours. His walking circuit was well established and he rarely deviated from it. First, he would step out into Mosque Street, where our house was located. It was a small, predominantly Muslim locality not too far from the Shiva temple that has made our town famous for centuries. He would then walk through the narrow lanes of the town onto the more open roads leading to the coconut groves and finally wind his way through the groves to his patch of land. Today, I try to imagine him walking on those quiet roads long before the days made its many demands on him. Our was a large family and I am sure there were many pressures on him to see to our needs. But at that hour, I think of him listening intently to the sea, to the ever-present ravens and other birds that swooped and
flew all around, woken up by the rising sun like him. Perhaps he said his prayers to himself as he walked or thought of his family with a calm, uncluttered, early morning mind. I never did ask him what went through his mind on the long daily walk. For when does a young boy really have the time to reflect in the way about his father? But I was always sure that the morning walk added something to his personality, an element of,
and neither did it enter our minds to shirk this duty. After saying our namaz, when we would sweep out on the road, groups of people would inevitably be there, waiting to talk to him and share their worries with him. What did this man and woman see in him? He was not a preacher, nor a teacher. He was just a man who lived by his convictions and the tenets of his religion. What did it give them? I now think that it was his mere presence that calmed them and gave them hope. He said prayers for them, and many people would offer him bowls of water. He would dip his fingertips in them and say a prayer, after what would be taken away to be given to the sick. Later, many of those people will come to the house and thank him for having cured their near and dear ones. Why did he do this? And where did he get the peacefulness and generosity of heart to talk to people, comfort them, and pray for them in the midst of the business of his own life? He was a humble boat owner. Life was certainly not easy for him, what with finding the best ways to make ends meet in a tiny temple down, cut off from the mainland. Yet never once did I see my father turn away anyone who wanted to unburden himself by talking to him. Without doubt, he was a deeply spiritual man with some kind of connection with God. I believe his spirituality came from being a learned man. He knew the scriptures and would bring out their essential truth to even the youngest inquiring mind. When I asked him questions, he would always reply and attempt to explain in simple, straightforward Tamil. Once I asked him, why do those people come to you? And what do you really do for them? His reply still stays with me nearly 5 decades later. Whenever human beings find themselves alone at the natural
life in Rameshwaram, my journey took me to places I had never imagined visiting, from the cockpit of a fighter jet to highest office in nation. Yes, yet it was always his words that came back to me. There is a divine power that looks over us, that gently lifts us from our sadness and failures and miseries. If we open our minds and let it, it will guide us to our true place. Release yourself from the bindings that limit you and let that power overtake your mind. And that's when you will be on the road to true happiness and peace. This is what I imagined him saying to me whenever I am worried. I am now 82 years of age. Like him, my day, even today, begins with a walk. Every morning, I savor the sight of the new sun, the binding light in the sky before the sun appears, the cool breeze and the sweet call of the birds. I understand how this short time of the day binds us to nature. Each morning is different in the way the elements come together for that day. It is a little drama nature puts up only for us, and I can't stop marveling at it. Unlike him, I often find myself in different cities.
Yes.
A day at my home in Delhi, there is a grand old Arjuna tree. Somehow, my feet always pull me towards it. When I walk in my garden, it usually laden with honeycombs and is home to hundreds of birds, especially parrots, the dignity, beauty, and stature of this tree. Continue to walk every morning to his coconut grove. As I see him, I imagine how it's been almost an hour since he set off, and the caretaker of the grove is also up and going about his day. When my father walks into his plantation, the men all reach each other with warmth. Perhaps Jalaluddin sits down somewhere a while. The other man climbs a coconut tree. He chooses half a somewhere a while. The other man climbs a coconut tree. He chooses half a dozen coconuts and cuts them down with a swing of his knife. They fall with a thump to the ground. The man quickly makes his way down.